Welcome back to another episode of Psychocinematic. Today I have a returning guest and his name is Matt Likely. Last time he was here on the podcast, he was talking to me about his production design work on the TV show called From, building all of those incredible sets. But today he's here to talk to me about his production design work on the TV show called The Institute, which is based on a Stephen King novel. So without further ado, here's Matt. Hey, how's it going?
Good, man. How are you?
Good. What time is it over there?
7:30.
Damn, I'm sorry it's so late.
No, man, I wanted
4
it at
hours.
this time. It was good. We're
Okay.
still in production on From season 4, so I
Oh
just
wow.
got
Okay.
I just got home. Yeah, it was good.
Well, I guess that's a great segue in is if you're still in production on From season 4, what are you doing now? Like, are you still building sets or do you have to be there on set to just kind of like make sure nothing breaks and, or you can repair it if it did or something like that?
Everything, all that basically. We're in the last block of episodes for From season 4, so it's typically like the busiest time. It's like episode 9 and 10, so it's the season finale. It's like the big bang at the end of the season, always. So we're building right up until the end. We'll be building until like almost the last day, honestly, and
Wow.
that's almost always the case. And yeah, and then the nice thing is that we're not prepping for two more episodes after that when when we're at the end,
Yeah.
we typically like through the year we're shooting and prepping at the same time, so at least we're not totally prepping for two new episodes after this.
Yeah, that's really cool. And I just finished watching The Institute a couple days ago, which I really liked it. After episode 4, man, I was just like, I couldn't stop watching it. It was like one of those things where I was just like, damn it, I'm mad it's 10 p.m. and, I'm an old man and got to go to sleep because it was really good. And I really like how the intro to the show really feels like it's largely highlighting your production design, because there's not like many characters or anything going on. It's just kind of like highlighting the set. So I think that's really cool to see your work just.
Thank you. This is actually like some of the photos that I took myself that are in the intro, and
That's
it's
awesome.
the same as From, actually. But it's always fun when still photos of the sets can hold up, and be part of the intro like that. It's cool.
So I noticed, speaking of From and the Institute together, obviously you're a part of both. And then I remember you telling me Jack Bender, which is a director from and director on this as well. He was, a part of it. Plus we've got Robert Joy as Hendrix. And then was there anyone else from the From team that was working on Institute?
The Not so much on camera, but like almost the entire behind the scenes crew is the From crew. So it's like
Wow.
all of my team, certainly like all of construction, scenic, props, set deck, the core art department is all the same team as From.
Yeah.
Completely
Wow.
different subject matter for us to
Yeah.
make, for
Yeah.
sure, but all the same crew, and then like the shooting crew as well, like all the same camera department,
Hmm.
everything like continuity, production office, like everything is pretty much the same. The same crew does both shows, and um, it's great because we're like all working together all year round basically right now with the two shows.
Well, so I was going to say, and like ask if like camera, color, that kind of thing, because it seems very visually similar, like the aesthetic of like, the colors on screen and obviously filmed in a similar area, right? It's Halifax.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
both shows are done in Halifax, and I can see the similarities in them for sure.
Hmm.
But like, y- actually, the our where we established the institute and had our exterior build for the institute couldn't be closer to where we have built From Town. It's like minutes away.
That's
And
funny.
yeah, I'm sure we'll get into that, but the two are very, very, very close in proximity. And I would just say like visually, like they're completely different in my mind, but very similar in my mind too.
Hmm.
And I think it comes across that way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I've seen people online talk about with From that they do like tours of the facility. Is that true? Is that just something that people are like they let people come in and look around?
Like due to the popularity of From now, like there are people showing up at the set pretty much every day.
Hmm.
And it like, there is a security team and it's fenced in. So a lot of people come to the gate and take pictures, definitely. There's
Yeah.
no like official guided tours that are happening. I
Uh-huh.
always like joke that, my retirement plan is to like get a golf cart and a megaphone and take people on tours of Fromtown, and then you
Yeah.
take it a step further and have like a From experience. You can spend the night in Fromtown, and we'll have people dress up as the nightmare creatures and knock on the window and give you the
Yeah.
full experience. But
That would be
yeah,
awesome.
there's no official guided tours right now, but people are showing up at the set all the time. And you can see, like, you can come to the gate and you can see Colony House up on the hill in the distance and
Mm,
take a picture and see Colony House and sort of get a glimpse of what's going on. There's tons of
yeah.
activity in that area because we're shooting there pretty much every day right now. But
Hmm.
yeah, no official guided tours.
Yeah. It's funny with you talking about the security and the gates. It's like you guys have built your own institute there, you know, being a
Literally, yeah, yeah,
attraction.
yeah, yeah, exactly. Except that everybody knows what goes on at this place,
Yeah.
which is the difference. It's funny, like with the people showing up at the gate for From, it like I've seen the amount of interest of people like wanting to come see the set rise at the same rate as the popularity of the show. Like after season
Hmm.
one, there was like it was gaining a little bit of traction, and there'd be a couple people showing up, and then now it's like literally every day people are showing up. People are posting like on the Facebook groups and on Reddit that they're trying to get into the set. So it's a good problem to have for
Yeah.
so many people to be interested in it and trying to get a glimpse of what's going on.
So I am curious with this being based off of a Stephen King novel, when you were going to get started with the production design or just like thinking conceptually about it, did you find it important to read the book, or is that like just referencing scripts and like the director's input, that kind of thing?
With Stephen King, especially, like it's daunting, and I got to read the book
Mm,
always, for sure. And even though the show differs a little bit from the book, like I always want to start with the book and read it like I would any book. Like, when I'm reading a book anyway, I'm like visualizing what it all looks like, what the characters look like, and for me in particular, what the locations and sets look like. I think everybody does that when they read a book.
yeah.
Everybody sort of imagines it in their own way, which is like a little bit more added stress for me when it comes to a TV show because a lot of people would watch The Institute because they've read the book, and then so
Right.
they have formed their own version of the places and universe that the book takes place in. And then so how I imagine it might be a little bit different than you imagine it, which is a little bit different than anybody that read the book would imagine it. So then for me, I think, my instinct is this, but like, will this match up with what other people think? So that's the challenge. And then it's fun to figure it out, and see
Yeah.
if it matches up, and I always wonder, what would Stephen King think about it? Which is an
Well,
interesting thought,
yeah. Yeah.
and this isn't my first Stephen King project. Like we're lucky in Nova Scotia. Nova Scotia looks a lot like Maine,
Yeah.
and Stephen King writes a lot of things that are set in Maine.
Hmm.
And there isn't a very big film industry or a robust film industry in Maine, so a lot of Stephen King projects make their way here. And before I was a production designer, I worked on the TV show Haven, which was, based on a Stephen King short story called The Colorado Kid. And I was the art director on the TV series based on The Mist,
Mm,
and then since I've been a designer, I did Chapelwaite, which was another MGM show
mm.
based on a short story he did called Jerusalem's Lot. So this wasn't my first go around with Stephen King,
Wow. Yeah.
and I'm glad that he writes so much stuff for Maine, and it certainly kept a lot of us busy over the years. But yeah, it's a challenge. When it's something popular, when it's something that other people have read the whole story before the series is written, before they watch the whole show, um, to sort of either match or show them my own version of how I interpreted his work. So
Yeah.
to answer your question, yes, I always read the book.
Well, that's really cool to hear because, yeah, I have talked to some people. I can't remember them off the top of my head, but people like, when it's based on a book. And the answer that I've gotten largely is, it's script focus, in like trusting that the people who have done the scripts, did their due diligence with the book. Yeah. So I'm glad you brought up not knowing what Stephen King thought because I was going to ask you about that. So, with any of those projects, have you ever been able to interact with him or heard how he felt about what you guys worked on?
I always hope that he'll come and check it out, and that hasn't happened yet. It felt like he was a good, a big fan of Chapelwaite and like what we did and the look of it,
Mm,
and he's a prolific Twitter or X.com poster,
yeah.
so he shares his opinion quite often. So I always check out to see what he has to say, and it's fun because he was complimentary of Chapelwaite, and then he's a big From fan, and he's not
Mm,
involved with From whatsoever.
yeah.
But he has posted a bunch of different times about From and how he likes the vibe and the look and thinks it's creepy and all that stuff. So that's always a huge compliment and puts some wind in our sails,
Heck
in
yeah.
terms of the art department. So I always love that he's a From fan, and then he's made some posts about the Institute as well, and we've heard secondhand that he likes it, so that's always cool to hear.
Yeah. So that initial vision that you had when reading the book, how close does that match what you ended up creating?
Really close, like honestly, and funny that you said about some people not wanting to read the book and just go by the script, but I think it's fun
Mm,
to read the book and then like maybe incorporate a few small details that are in the book that maybe don't make their way to the script, but you can still incorporate in terms of
mm,
the sets and the props and stuff like that, to sort of throw back to the book, but not those things may not have been mentioned in the script. So to me, it's like you want to. The script doesn't say everything that you need. You need to like
yeah.
fill in the blanks a lot of the time. So then you can fill in those blanks with details from the book too. So it's a no-brainer to me to read the book. But um, in terms of like what I imagined when I read the book, I think it's like pretty close to what we ended up with, and a big part of what we did was make the institute in brutalist style architecture, lots of
Hmm.
concrete and that sort of thing. So I had imagined it that way. I don't think it like calls that out by name in the book, or I don't remember it being like that. And I always imagined it that way. And I think like while I was reading the book, I imagined it that way. And then definitely at the end, like knowing that the whole place like basically crumbles. I thought,
Yeah.
okay, well, concrete's the material that we want to have, and then so it worked backwards from that, to make the sets that way, and that was like something early on when I was first putting together ideas about what it could look like was definitely make it in a brutalist style, concrete. It's fun because with like concrete you can dress it up to a certain degree to make it like a little bit more habitable for the kids. Like so, like when the kids first wake up in the
Yeah.
institute, we made it so it's like it's like they've done their best to make it sort of nice for the kids, but like it's like a sort of thin layer of like trying to make it nice. And then like as the story goes on and they get to see more of the institute, certainly like the labs, the underground stuff, and then back half, like we could take that look forward, that concrete look forward, and like really strip away all of the niceties
Yeah.
and have it be like, once the kids are into like back half, especially like the ruse is up, like they know that they're not going home. Like
Yeah.
this illusion of like do your job and then go home is gone. So then like to strip away all the like murals on the wall, the posters that are trying to make
Hmm.
the kids, think that they're doing this for like whatever reason. All of that is stripped away, and then it's fun like just to have those like concrete walls left with like the really like harsh lighting and stuff like that. It to me it was like the perfect canvas to sort of like start nice and then strip it all away and
Yeah.
have it be totally cold and like yeah, desolate.
Yeah, that's making a lot of sense what you're saying because when I'm reflecting on how it was all built, because I did notice that it like it, that first shot of the intro, like it's almost like the waiting room area is like the
Yep.
nicest room. Like it looks super like luxurious almost. And then like the offices, like it steps down a little bit. And then the cafeteria steps down a little bit. And it just like, it's like the further you get into this building, like you said, it's getting more and more stripped away.
Yep.
Yeah, that's really cool. Um, I did not know a lot about brutalist architecture before this, and honestly, it's embarrassing to say that I didn't know about brutalist or like the term brutalist architecture until the film The
Mm.
Brutalist came out, and I didn't
Mm.
even like catch it until like late, like when they're talking specifically about the architecture in there, I was like, oh, I'm an idiot. Like I was expecting something brutal to happen in this,
Yeah,
movie. I was like, so
totally. I
stupid.
mean, it suits what happens in a sense, and it's funny. Like you mentioned the film The Brutalist. It like it came out like while we were like developing the designs basically for the
Hmm.
institute, so it was like funny timing in that sense. And you'd probably think that it could somehow inspire me to go that way with the designs, but it was like funny timing wise. It just came out and it became sort of more mainstream. The term
Yeah.
especially became mainstream, so you're not the only one.
Yeah.
Definitely. But yeah, it was the perfect style to sort of get across what we wanted to for this.
Yeah. So last night I was looking up brutalist architecture just to see if there was like anything that I should be more aware of because I was like, oh, clearly it's like concrete, but like when I was thinking brutalist architecture, I was associating it with like like luxurious, lavish, obscure looking homes that, like the celebrities would have in the Hollywood Hills or something like that. But it was talking about how it was coming around after World War II because it was like the cheaper way to build things and
Yep.
that it was mostly government institutions. I was like, oh, that's so perfect. And because I was thinking about the vibes that I was getting through, your design work, because I was like, it's, you know, there's touches of that luxurious, like sleek, but then there's also like I'm getting school, prison, industrial type of feelings, and aside from the vague industrial, I was like, those are all government institutions basically. So I was like, that makes sense. So that's really
Yeah.
cool that you were able to put all that together.
Yeah. Like in my mind, I had that a lot of government buildings use that style, and then universities, especially like here in Halifax, we have a couple of different universities. Dalhousie University um, has buildings in the brutalist style that I've always sort of liked. And then while we were shooting from season three, and I was thinking about the institute, I went on a trip to Toronto in Ontario in Canada, and it's known as sort of like a bit of a like brutalist hotbed. Like there's a lot of like government buildings that are done in that style. So I went on this sort of like, you know, self-imposed brutalist tour in Toronto and took a ton of pictures of a lot of the exterior architecture, especially like of all the little details, the fluting that they do on buildings
Yeah.
and how what the windows look like and all that sort of thing. So I had this like collection of stuff that I was trying to reference in that way. But yeah, it felt like the right style for sure.
Yeah. So I'm guessing that you did do this intentionally, but I wanted to ask for clarification's sake. It seems like a lot of the interior design work of the Institute, especially in the back half, um, is it resembles the logo of the institute with like the curved roofs and then like all the there's so many narrow rectangular shapes throughout the institute, but then what really brought it all home was that rounded roof, and it just looks like that eye that is their
Yeah.
logo.
Yeah, Vic, you just gave me the chills, man, because like that's like yeah, totally on purpose, 100%. There's like a couple of different things that were on purpose in that sense, and like one of them is the curve of the eye logo, matching like all the back half sets have that vaulted concrete ceiling, but then also like go back and look because like the I that's in the middle of the I logo, which is supposed to be like an uppercase I, right?
Hmm.
That format of rectangle is always all throughout the show. Like the
Yeah.
doors match that style, the windows like in the administration wing,
The cabinet doors.
everything. Like there's a bunch that like match that ratio exactly, and that was like totally on purpose from the start. Like that was like a huge thing for me, and like that I try to incorporate into all the different sets, and definitely the logo. And like speaking of the logo, like it is like the shape of an eye. It's a capital letter I. But then something that I haven't seen anybody talk about that I wanted to say was that like it's also a keyhole. And
Mm,
like a keyhole is like an important thing within what the Institute is doing is that they're looking for these keyhole events or like times
yeah,
when they can do movie night and create the thing that they do during a certain time frame. They call it a keyhole time. So
yeah.
then that logo is like the letter I, it's an eye like eyeball, and then it's also a keyhole.
That's
So
awesome.
yeah, yeah. Thanks for noticing.
Yeah, well, and
Yeah,
thanks for shedding light on that because,
yeah,
yeah, like when you say that, I'm like, yeah, it looks like a keyhole, but then immediately, as every time they talk about keyhole in there, and
yeah.
yeah, that's great. Now I'm thinking about the playground and the exterior, uh, just like such a little detail, but it makes me wonder, like with the basketball hoops. Are you guys like getting already old basketball hoops and like setting them up, or are you guys getting new ones and then just weathering them and making them look old?
Almost everything we did was brand new, and then we aged it down. And um, when it came to the Institute exterior, like I think in some cases it would be like t tempting to make this giant exterior building like just fully visual effects. Like
Mm,
just because like it's maybe like a bit too big of an undertaking or too expensive to do, but because of the important scenes that took place on the outside of the Institute, especially like in Luke and Nikki and noticing and Avery noticing like how they can plan Luke's escape.
yeah.
It became apparent that there was going to be like a lot of interaction with at least like part of the exterior of the Institute. So that was a big thing for me to try to, get approved and to design and build for real at least part of the exterior, and we did. So we got very good at fake concrete, both for the outside and the inside, and we can get into that. But like uh the exterior, like I hope people realize that we did build like a good portion of the exterior facade. And then there is the visual effects extension, clearly to make the full exterior of the Institute. But yeah, all that weathering was all done, you know, from scratch, basically. Brand new basketball net, brand new
Yeah.
fence, brand new barbed wire and razor wire and fake concrete and all that. Where there's a lawn outside, there was no lawn before. That was all done from the ground
Yeah.
up, from scratch. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's worth mentioning that you again have a really detailed video showing the build process of all this stuff on your YouTube channel, which I can link in the description. But those are always so great. I wish everyone did those because it's so fascinating to see how it's built. Because yeah, like I saw you guys rolling out the grass, and you would have just assumed that there's already grass there. It's Canada. I don't know,
Yep.
So that building there, because like when I was watching your video, it looked like it was all like graffitied up and whatnot. So was there a building still standing there that you guys then either knocked down or then worked off of?
Yes. So there was this old U.S. radar base, I think. I don't know the full story, but like there was this old, uh, basically abandoned building made of concrete. Uh, funny enough, that's been there forever, and where we've built from town is very close to that. So I knew about that building. I would like see it all the time. It's like set up like high. It was a radar base, so it's like set up in a spot that's positioned high, sort of like with this great view, with this great vista of the woods all around it. And I always thought, are we going to use this somehow for from sometime, or like like we had it in our pocket as like a thing that could be used at some point. So then when we started to think about the institute and how the institute had to be sort of isolated in the middle of the woods and, surrounded by forest and all that stuff, then we started to think about, hey, this is like the perfect spot for it because
Yeah.
there was that existing structure, and like none of that existing structure is actually in the finished product of the show. But it was great for us to have something to start with that was paved around it, that had like, a road up to it already, that had a little bit of infrastructure. And then
Yeah.
we used the existing sort of graffiti old decrepit building to attach our scaffolding to. And now we didn't want to be up against it because it was like that building is literally like crumbling, as we speak or as we build.
Yeah.
So we had to set our facade off a certain amount of feet to create sort of a safety net, so to speak. But yeah, we attached the whole thing to our facade to an old. We attached our new fake concrete facade to an old graffitied concrete building, which
Yeah.
is super odd and funny, but that's the way it goes in this
Yeah.
industry. So yeah,
A
yes,
real crumbling government structure to this that needs to
yeah,
crumble at the end. Yeah.
exactly.
That's funny.
Yeah, yeah.
So I was also curious about the Dreambox scene, like designing that. I'm not sure how, like, were you designing the Dreambox or was that the props department doing that part?
It's all of us, and for the Dreambox in particular, like that was something that we wanted to try to do practically, which means
Hmm.
like to actually do like the effect in camera and like
Yeah.
have it actually work, and then it not have too many visual effects to do in post production. So for the Dreambox, we knew we wanted it to be sort of a cube that you sit in,
Hmm.
and then we figured out a way. We figured out, myself and the art department and uh, our props team and set tech figured out a way to actually project images onto the outside of this box and have them appear on the inside of this box. So a lot of what you see in the show is actually done for real with real
Yeah.
projectors. There was, w- all sides of the cube except for
Hmm.
like the open side were basically screens that we projected on from the outside that you could see then on the inside, and like that was just one of those things that it took a lot of people to figure out. And like I like to get my hands dirty with that stuff too. Like I
Hmm.
was like sourcing the projectors myself, like figuring out which ones would work and like ordering them, like and testing it out, and that one came together really well.
Yeah.
That was fun. And then there's like the whole like special effects component of it where like the chair needed to spin, and like that was an old like dentist chair,
Hmm.
um that we had, and then to rig that so it spins, and like so it takes so many people for a simple thing like that. Simple is like the wrong word for that, but
Yeah.
very complicated. But like in the show, it's just one scene or a handful of scenes. But it takes so much work to do that. And then, we had that, but then we had so many other of the labs and testing rooms that all had
Hmm.
their unique challenges in terms of the technology of it all and figuring it
Yeah.
out. But we were trying to do like what we could as much as we could to do practical effects and not rely too much on visual effects, because in the end it all costs a certain amount of money, and it's great to
Yeah.
have it work for real on the day for the actors and for the directors to actually be able to shoot and know what they're shooting.
Yeah.
And it's funny for us because like me and my crew, we've done, we've had a run here where we've done, 4 seasons of From Now. Before that, we did Chapel. Um, a lot of us worked on the Lighthouse before that. So we've had this like run of sort of old, janky, decrepit, like age stuff, peeling paint, like not all period stuff, but like the period vibe where like it's old and sort of
Yeah.
decrepit. So this was like a different challenge for us because there was a technology aspect to it. There was like a polished aspect to it, even though a lot of it, a lot of the institute is old and there's some aging and stuff like that. But to do the concrete look with like we wanted to do this like retro future vibe kind of with the institute where they're using some new technology and they're developing new stuff as they sort of like figure out these different ways to like harness the power of these kids. But at the same time, a lot of the computers are old. They're like they've been, like any sort of like government funded thing, they're like
Yeah.
relying on old technology and computers and stuff like that. So I really wanted that to come across. So, we do have like some sort of high tech stuff that's newer, but then we had a ton of like old, CRT monitors and trying to get across that even some of the computer systems like still worked on like MS-DOS and stuff like that. Like I hope
Hmm.
that kind of comes across that they're dealing like any government agency with like outdated technology. But yeah, it was fun for us to flex a different set of muscles and do the sort of technology vibe as opposed to the old-timey janky vibe.
Yeah, I was that was my best guess was that you guys were using multiple projectors, and then I rewatched your video before this and I saw one projector in the photo that you had of that that dream box, and so I wasn't sure if maybe you were using mirrors instead. somehow. That would be crazy math to be able to do. But and I don't know if it would be bright enough. But it's great that you guys did that practically, just because like that interactive lighting is just so hard to beat. Like on Luke's skin, like while everything's flashing around. But I
Yep.
was curious, what made you guys decide? Like maybe it was purely budgetary, or I don't know, maybe something else, to go with a projector and doing that screen rather than doing like some sort of volume type like LED screens. Because that seems like it would have been a doable thing too, but maybe too hard to get
Yeah,
like square TV, looking thing.
we looked into that for sure, and it just like it felt like the projection side of it. Like I wanted, it didn't it quite come across like in the finished product the same way that I imagined it, but I wanted it to be a little bit dated, and I wanted to be able to see like the projector lines coming from the walls, like
Mm,
on the outside of the box. Like I thought that was like a huge part of the vibe, and it
yeah,
doesn't come across exactly that way, but like that's often how it goes. Is like you have an idea, and it doesn't necessarily come across that way. Like we ended up with like they're called short throw projectors because we were confined within an area. We were in the studio in a set that we built, so it's all to our own design. But we we only had so much space to work with, and yeah, it just like that was why it was like I wanted I wanted projector lines like beams of
yeah.
light with atmosphere, and it didn't come across like that exactly in the end, but that was the intent.
Did you guys put like plexiglass or something on the other side of the screen to have like reflections? Because it looked like there was like some sort of glass on top of whatever screen you put in there to project on.
Yeah, it's like it's like called milk plexi. Basically, it's like
Okay.
plexiglass that has like a milky tint to it. So it's like semi-opaque. Acrylic or plexi wouldn't work. It would
Yeah.
just project through it. So we needed something to catch the light, basically. So that was the idea.
Gotcha. With From, it sounded like there was a ton of, hidden details in plain sight. Were you doing the same thing with this show?
It's not quite the same thing, like where it's like, we're not this. First of all, this was like season one of the show, so it's like with From we're like often referring back to the things that we've already established. So for this was like the first season, so it's like
Yeah.
this is the time to establish a certain amount of stuff, and then hopefully we'll refer back to it. But From is more of a mystery box
Yeah.
style show where it's like it lends itself to more of those details. But certainly, like I'm always trying to like reference back a little bit to things that we've done, or reference the material. Like an example for the Institute is like, there's posters plastered all over the Institute that are trying to keep the kids sort of like upbeat and
Yeah.
whatever. It's like they're a little bit comical, the posters, but like one of them is like says it's your time to shine. And then
Mm,
like, Stephen King fans know that like the shine is like the his way of like describing like powers like telekinesis and telepathy and all that. So
yeah.
that was just like a little play on words that like
That's cool.
never mentioned in the scripts or anything like that. That was just like something we thought of that something someone might catch at some point. So that was the
Yeah.
sort of thing you can do with like Stephen King because he has so much of a universe set up that then it's like self-referential in that way too. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Did you guys, since it's, largely similar crew as From, put in any like From Easter eggs, like just like little things that like if you were a crazy From fan and you just happen to notice like, I don't know, something about that.
I'm sure fans of both shows will like recognize a couple of locations that are very similar, but no sort of like direct aside from like obviously Robert Joy playing
Yeah.
Henry Victor's dad in From and playing Dr. Hendricks in the Institute. And probably a few other actors as well. You would notice between the two shows because there are some really talented actors that are in From that then were used for the Institute as well. But it's just that sort of thing.
When you were designing the crematory furnace and whatnot, was that designed to actually have fire, or are those just lights and then like visual effects to make it look like fire's in there, or maybe a TV with fire on, something like that?
That's the lighting effect in
Okay.
the crematorium for the institute. Yeah, it's because we never, really saw the flames directly. The way crematoriums work, like the flames are very low, and it's
Yeah.
at sort of like a low point until the doors are closed and the it's activated, and then the flames come up. But sort of, there was no reason to use real flame though, although we certainly have for other similar things, but in that particular case, it just made sense to do it as a lighting effect, and it's quite effective.
I don't know how much you're allowed to share with this, but I often think about, budget in film in general, but like for building all these sets, because, like I'm a freelance videographer. And so, like, anytime someone comes to me with like a music video, those are a little harder to budget out. And then I have to think about every little thing that's going to be going into it. And I'm just curious, like when you're starting out on a show, do they tell you we have X amount? We need you to make it fit in there, or we need you to go out and, give us quotes on like what you think it's going to cost to build all this? Like, is it flexible? Like how does that, like, are you the one who has to manage that, or is that someone else?
Yeah, I mean, before anybody starts, there's a certain budget overall. I start to think about like what we might need to do, or like, what's the best way to do it? Like when it comes to the Institute, like we had the whole book to pull from. They had like a good outline for the whole 8 episodes. So I knew sort of like how much each set would be used. So that's half the battle, is knowing like, how much use is like something going to get, and like how much of an investment can you make in each of these things, and like can you make a compelling case to spend money on this because it will be used. And it doesn't always mean like the amount of time that it will be used for. It oftentimes means like what's the importance to the story too.
Yeah.
Something might only be on screen for 30 seconds but be crucial to the story, and therefore a good investment. But to go back to what you asked, like I read it and I think about the most efficient way to do it. What's good production wise, what's good for the look of the show, and then sort of like put an idea together of what we could do on location, what we can build in the studio. Like studio space is then another issue. It's not just about what things cost. It's like you only have so much space to put things as well. So then that
Hmm.
becomes like a budget in itself, a space budget. So you take all those factors into mind, and you do have to put together a budget, and then you hope that it aligns with whatever's been earmarked, without your input prior to that. And like those things don't always align. Experienced producers like know, that there's going to need to be a certain amount of stuff built. So like I'm lucky, like, I've been blessed to like do all these shows in a row where we build almost everything from the ground up, or
Yeah.
build a large portion of the stuff from the ground up. So it's like there's always been a good amount of money put aside for all the things we can really dream in color. And like, I'm super fortunate in that sense. So it's never this huge fight. I just have to make a compelling case of like why we should do it. They always have my back, and it always makes sense, like it made sense to do the entire thing from scratch. It's amazing that we did it. Institute, we knew that, like, the show's called The Institute. We knew we would be in all of those Institute interior sets. We knew we needed like an exterior that we could shoot at and have it be good for Luke's escape and all that stuff. So yeah, it's like you just like you make a compelling case, and like a lot of times like the things that you want to invest in as a production designer to make the sets look good are aligned with what makes sense production wise, because you want to be able to like own it. You want to be able to like be, not have to like inconvenience people and put people out and put them up in hotels to use their house and all that sort of thing
Yeah.
that happens when you shoot on location. So it's like oftentimes it's not a big fight. It's like all aligned. It just makes sense. So it comes back to like having, a good plan from the start, and comes back to like having enough time to pull it off. And those are all things, like it's not always just about money. It's about money for sure. And but it's about like studio space, and it's about the time you have to build things, because like, yeah, you can go find a location and shoot in it tomorrow if it looks good. You can't go build a set tomorrow and shoot in it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? You need time
Hmm.
to do it. So it's like a budget on like so many different levels.
So I was going to ask you if the show was going to be a limited series, but earlier you're talking about, the referring back, and like it sounds like maybe you guys have hope for there being a season two, though there's not a book two. I don't know exactly where the book ends, but I was looking it up and it said that there wasn't like a sequel or a prequel. So like, are you guys hoping to
Yeah.
like continue the show?
The Institute's been renewed for season two.
Oh wow, that's awesome.
And yeah, 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 yeah. And uh, there's no book for season two. So
Yeah.
stay tuned. Yeah.
Does that mean that your life for the next 5 or so years, or however long, is going to be from institute, from institute?
Certainly gone that way so far, and feels like it will continue to go that way. It's super busy. This is like a real golden age for the industry here, and
Yeah,
for me personally, it's like as busy as I'll ever be probably in my whole career right now. But it's a good problem to have, that's for sure, and it's super fun stuff to make, and I'm blessed to like work so much. And it's like I got to pace myself, and my team has to like pace themselves, and the whole crew, because it's like it's a lot of work to make these shows, and it's nonstop right now. But like I said,
yeah.
it's a really good problem to have.
Do you at least get a break after season 4 of From Wraps before you jump into season 2
No,
institute?
I'll go right into Institute season two, and with some overlap, honestly.
Oh wow.
But I'll have a break at Christmas time, for a couple of weeks, which will be great. And I've learned like in the last couple of years to sort of like pace myself and figure out like a sustainable approach to this kind of work, because it can really, you can really get burned out like doing this sort of thing, and the hours can be long and stuff like that. And if you're not careful, like you will, work at a pace that's not sustainable. But for me, like I've sort of, especially in the last like year or so, found like a better work-life balance to like sort of make it a long-term viable way to go about it, because I hope this continues for a long time to have these great projects to work on. And you know when you're at home, and things are slow, and you hope you're going to get a phone call at any time, like this is the problem that you want to have. You want
Yeah.
to have so much work that you can't stop.
That's really great to hear, and I'm glad that you found that better balance. And I really appreciate you taking the time to talk to me because clearly you're, completely swamped. So I just love picking your brain about all this amazing work that you guys, your whole team doing there. I'm just rooting for you guys to keep getting those seasons, and I'm hoping for a season 5 announcement soon for From. But I'm not sure if that maybe has to wait until season 4 starts airing.
Yeah, it always does. I'm excited to do more from. I'll say that
Yeah,
for sure. And things are really heating up in season four right now. I think the fans are going to love season four.
awesome.
Big time. Yep. And yeah, thanks, Vic. I'll come on anytime you want.
All right, awesome. I'm gonna
Yeah.
hold you to it.
Yeah.
Thank you.